The concept of a carrying capacity of an ecosystem as relevant to an environment. Explain how understanding this concept is a concept of ecosystem. Define the concept of carrying capacity of a ecosystem as relevant to an environment. How understanding this concept is vital while planning for a sustainable development. Define concept of a carrying capacity of ecosystem. Carrying capacity, ecosystem the carrying capacity as relevant to an environment. प्रासंगिकता relevant to an environment को प्रासंगिकता रे concept of carrying capacity ecosystem. Ecosystem as a carrying capacity. Explain how understanding this concept is vital while planning for sustainable development. Sustainable development means development of current generation with of a current generation and which favorable to for next generation. Concept of carrying capacity ecosystem is relevant. The carrying capacity of ecosystem is defined as the largest population size. Carrying capacity ecosystem is how much population will be carried. Carrying capacity of ecosystem defined largest population size. Largest population size that an ecosystem can sustainably support. The ecosystem can sustainably support sustainable environment, sustainable environment with available resources, support with available resources and without degrading the ecosystem. Consider carrying capacity of the ecosystem carrying capacity of a population which is sustainable for the sustainable support with available resources without degrading the ecosystem. It is also includes a limit of resources and pollution. Reducing the resources. Actually, it also includes a limit of resources, and pollution levels. Limit resources, and pollution levels can be maintained without experiencing high level of changes. Actually, consider carrying capacity without degrading the ecosystem can sustainable support with the available resources. As a population size that an ecosystem can sustainable support कर सकता है with available resources, जितना resources available है without degrading the ecosystem. Actually, sustainable the population should be ecosystem should be sustainable support to the population without degrading the natural resources without degrading ecosystem. It also available resources include a limit of resources and pollution levels. Limit resources pollution levels that can be maintained without experiencing high level of changes. Pollution levels limit the resources within the limit resources and the ongoing pollution levels. The carrying capacity of ecosystem depends on following factors. Carrying capacity, ecosystem resource available in the ecosystem, amount of resources available in the ecosystem, amount of resource kete resource अछि, size of population, amount of resources each individual is consuming, amount of every individual will consuming amount of resources. Carrying capacity of ecosystem depend करे. Carrying capacity is the basis for sustainable development. Carrying capacity means sustainable development policies. Sustainable development policies which emphasize karibo on balancing the need of present against the resources that will be needed in future. The key objective of sustainable development लक्ष्य are eradicating poverty. पॉवर्टी को इरेडिकेट करता है, कम ध्वस्त कर देता है. इरेडिकेटिंग पॉवर्टी. की ऑब्जेक्टिव्स ऑफ सस्टेनेबल डेवलपमेंट. सस्टेनेबल डेवलपमेंट का मूल लक्ष्य, की ऑब्जेक्टिव, नेचुरल रिसोर्सेज एंड चेंजिंग basis of sustainable development. Policy emphasize on balancing the needs of present against the resources. Policy that emphasizes on balancing the needs of present, balance the need of present against the resources. that will be needed in the future. Again, balance kariyo present needs of the resources and the save for the future generation needed in future. देखिए objective of sustainable development are eradicating poverty. Development of poverty eradicating sustainable development, protecting natural resources and eradicating the poverty and protecting the natural resources and changing unsustainable production. The unsustainable production is good wills, but unsustainable production and consumption patterns. Sustainable development is the coordinated development of nature, coordinated samanvaya, development of nature and social system, magic system, with 4 key elements: population, resources, environment and economy. Is the coordinated development of nature and social system. Sustainable development is the coordinated. Sustainable development is the nature of social system, nature of social, samadhic system, with 4 key elements: population, resources, environment and economy. Janasankhya, resources, ucha, environment, paribesh and economy. We get 4 key sources, key element of the development of nature and social system. So the development of nature and social system, nature and social system, population, resources, environment and economy. The concept of carrying capacity is important while planning for sustainable development of a region, because carrying capacity, concept of carrying capacity of ecosystem ro important while planning of sustainable development. Sustainable development management of the resources and nature, management of nature, environment, population, economy. Carrying capacity concept enables planners to determine the optimum population that can be supported within a given area. Optimum population support have within a given area with adequate infrastructure. Adequate infrastructure facilities so that development is environmentally hazard free and sustainable. Within a limited area, within a sustained area, within a supported area, given area, supported given area, and the development, sustainable development can be possible, and maintenance of resources and every types of the environmental hazard free and sustainable development, adequate infrastructure and development, and all the necessity and amenities should be provided to the population. Carrying capacity focus on the optimum utilization of resources. Optimum, optimum utilization of the resources. Given area, adequate infrastructure, adequate. Carrying focus on the optimum utilization of resources in an ecosystem which can be used for planning. Carrying capacity focus on the optimum utilization of resources को उन्नति कम optimum utilization होगा, which can be used for planning time. As the resources are fixed and limited, this can be help in development of society in a sustainable way. Development of society sustainable, not rapidly utilization of the resources and resources. Sustainable way actually within a limited area. Genetically modified crops should be cultivated, that production rate will be increased, and genetically hereditary and constrained disease affected plants and nutritional variety of crops and the germinate failures. Without the germinate failure of crops should be genetically modified by biotechnologically produced, and which will enhance the food security, food and which will fulfill the food security of the country and highest export rate, improve the export of the crops and cereals and other food fruits and foods materials, and which in contribute income high export by foreign exchange. Carrying capacity determines the supportive and assimilative. Carrying capacity determines supportive and assimilation. Assimilate authority capabilities of an area to withstand the population and ensure that limit is not crossed. Carrying capacity helps to keep a check on population size by determining the population size that can be supported by an ecosystem, which is essential for sustainable development. Carrying capacity determines the supportive and assimilative capabilities. An area withstand the population load and ensure this limit is not crossed. Supportive and assimilative carrying capacity. Abilities of an area to withstand the population load. The area capabilities to withstand the population load and ensure this limit is not crossed. Carrying capacity helps to keep the check on population size by determining the population size that can be supported by an ecosystem, which is essential for sustainable development. Ecosystem should be sustainable. Ecosystem should be supported the population size. Supported by ecosystem. Check on population size, population load, ensure the limit in cross. Carrying capacity gives an idea of amount of biological productive. Carrying capacity gives an idea of amount of biologically productive land what are required to produce all the resources. Carrying capacity gives an idea of amount of biologically productive land what are required to produce all the resources needed by the population for its consumption and developmental activities. It gives an idea amount of biological productive land and water are required. Biologically productive land, the idea of amount of biologically productive land, biologically productive and water are required to produce all the resources needed by the population for its consumption and development activities as well as to observe the waste generated. This helps in sustainable development of this region. Carrying capacity gives means idea of amount of biologically productive land and water area. Biologically productive land and water to produce all resources. So all resources needed by the population for its consumption and developmental activities as well as to observe the waste generated. This helps in sustainable development of these regions. Carrying capacity also helps to avoid overconsumption of resources. Carrying capacity also helps to avoid overconsumption of resources by an individual. Actually, carrying capacity also helps to avoid overconsumption by avoid carrying capacity of resources by an individual, achieve effective and efficient use of resources, effective prevention of degradable spatial quality which are essential in sustainable development. The prevention of degradable carrying capacity can be used to promote economic activities to promote carrying capacity which are consistent with the sustainable social and physical environment. Concept of carrying capacity provides a framework for integrating physical socio-economic. Concept of carrying capacity provides a framework for integrating physical and socio-economic environmental system into planning for a sustainable environment. Physical, socio-economic and environmental system integrate करियो physical, socio-economic and environmental system into planning for a sustainable environment. Framework for integrating physical, socio-economic. Framework for integrate करियो physical, socio-economic, सामाजिक अर्थनैतिक and environmental system into planning for sustainable environment के लिए. Carrying capacity provide a framework. Concept of carrying capacity. Carrying capacity provide a framework. Provide a framework करेगा, frame करेगा, integrating physical, socio-economic and environmental systems into planning for a sustainable development. Capacity gives an idea of amount of biological productive. Carrying capacity is the amount of biological productive land and water are required to produce all the resources needed by population for its consumption and developmental activities as well as to absorb the waste generated. Carrying capacity determines the supportive and assimilative capabilities. Supportive and assimilative capabilities of an area to withstand the population load and ensure this limit is not crossed. Carrying capacity helps to keep a check on population size over area withstand the population.